Now, 40 Conservative MPs have reportedly agreed to sign a letter of no confidence in Theresa May as the Brexit negotiations enter what's been described as crisis mode. Well, joining us now from Banbury is the former Conservative Deputy Prime Minister, Lord Heseltine. Very good afternoon to you. There have been reports this morning that 40 Conservative MPs are calling for Theresa May to go. She's under a lot of pressure, isn't she?
Well, I have never seen a more intractable set of problems facing a Prime Minister. That's undoubtedly the case.
So do you think she should go?
No. I think that it would be crazy. A couple of weeks before the budget, before the publication of the industrial strategy, with the imminent discussions about Brexit taking place on the continent, to throw the country into a leadership battle for the Conservative Party would be madness at this moment.
Now, to trigger a vote of no confidence under Conservative Party guidelines, there need to be 48 MPs calling for her to go. Do you think it will reach that stage?
Not at the moment. I think that this is Theresa May's one card, that the Tory party does not want an election which they would enter with Jeremy Corbyn in the lead in the polls. That's a pretty chilling prospect for all of us, but particularly the Conservative Party.
So is that the best thing about her, then, that the alternative is just far worse?
That's often the dilemma of politics, but I think that she has an option. Hasn't got much option on Brexit. That's a one-way walking disaster. But she has the budget and she has the industrial strategy publication. And I think within those two announcements, they're big events, there are things that she could do if she's prepared to confront the House of Commons that would be popular, that are necessary and are urgent. First of all, housing. She should put someone in charge, bring someone, a big hitter in from the private sector, because the present organisation within government is not going to do the job. I think Philip Hammond should probably find some money to help build houses, but it's as much the mechanisms of government for helping and insisting on the private sector to do it as it is public sector finance.
Okay, well, let's talk about Boris Johnson now, if we can. If you were in Theresa May's position, what would you do with him?
I would make sure that he was doing everything within the capacity of this country to undo the damage that his remarks made. I would not want him to go at this moment, because putting Boris on the backbenches changes nothing. He will still be Boris.
Well, let's just enlighten our viewers a bit who aren't following the story wholeheartedly. Of course, Boris Johnson made those comments about Nazanin Zaghari-Ratcliffe, who is imprisoned at the moment, earlier on this week, which could add significant time to her sentence. We've heard from Michael Gove speaking on television this morning, and he almost seemed to support Boris Johnson. What did you make of that?
Well, I didn't see it, and I would find it incomprehensible. Michael Gove is a sensible and man of integrity, and there is no way you can defend the, let's assume it was a mistake, of Boris Johnson. We can all make mistakes, but if you make them, the quicker you apologise and get out of it, the better.
He didn't even seem to back up the account of Nazanin Zaghari-Ratcliffe either. Is that pretty shocking in your point of view?
Look, the position facing the government is very worrying, very frightening. And whilst the issues that you're raising are important and they certainly deserve the exposure they're getting, they have to be put in the context of the enormous challenges now facing us economically and politically.
Well, indeed, there are big challenges.
Please do continue. You see, I think it's It's quite wrong for people like me on the touchline to try and double guess what the Foreign Office can do in these circumstances. They've got to do something, but diplomacy is their skill, and outside commentators are not going to make them better or worse at it. So I wish them every good fortune. I'm sure they're going to do everything in their power, and if I was Boris Johnson, I would push every lever I knew in order to undo the damage. But being sacked at this moment, facing the budget, the industrial strategy, the Brexit negotiations hanging by a fairly worn thread, that's not the time to lose your foreign secretary.
So do you think Boris Johnson should get on that plane and go to Iran with her husband?
Sorry, your question went off air.
Should Boris Johnson go out there and try to campaign to get her freed?
He should do everything within his power. That doesn't mean getting on a plane if the result is going to be further humiliation. But Britain is not without influence, and these are where the skills of the Foreign Office are absolutely essential. It would be crazy for me, or indeed other people, to try and tell them how to achieve the very desirable end which we can all wish for.
OK, Lord Heseltine, thanks ever so much for your thoughts.